Reddit by Reddit recap. Waiters, what Valentine Day disasters have you witnessed? I am a bartender but happen to be the one on the date for this particular disaster. So anyone in the service industry knows, you generally just do not make plans on certain holidays because you will have to work, no matter what. I had not had a date on Valentine's in probably 7 years. So when my boss gave me the day off, I was surprised and posted something dumb on Insta about it. I got a DM from a girl I knew but not very well, asking me out for Valentine's, and she was way cute, so I figured why not. Things went so wrong so quickly. We get to the restaurant, grab a drink in the bar while we wait on our table. Took a shot to get the social lubricant flowing since we don't really know each other very well. I pay our bar tab, and we move to the table. To set the scene a bit, this place is a really nice steakhouse and they have these dark red, diamond pattern booths that are fluffy, with buttons at each point of the pattern. The moment we sit down, my date lets out a blood-curdling scream like she had just been stabbed. She grabs her arm and her hand comes away covered in blood, and she looks so confused and I have no idea what the F just happened. I look around thinking someone just stabbed her, but everyone around us is seated just staring over at us. I move over to her side of the booth and grab the napkins off the table to find where she is cut. The entire back of her upper arm is sliced from elbow to shoulder. One of the buttons had broken off of the wall and the snap metal fastener was exposed, so when she sat down her arm ran all the way down along it. She is panicking. I am trying to stop the bleeding, while the people around us figure out what is going on and call 911 for us. The manager comes over and is immediately a defensive a-hole until he sees that it was his booth that did the damage. The paramedics show up. I get the owner's info from the manager, and we spend the night in the ER where she needed something like 80 stitches. We both are exhausted at this point when a guy walks in with flowers, champagne and a bag of takeout food from the restaurant we had left. It was the owner of the restaurant coming to make sure we could have the Valentine's meal we had missed out on. Sure, it was probably because he was afraid to get sued, but it was still really welcomed after how shy the night had become so quickly. She and I ended up dating for almost 3 years and became good friends with the owner. Such good friends she ended up banging him, and that was the last I heard from either of them. Woo, Valentine's. I have stuck to working those nights ever since. The end. This story is an emotional roller coaster. Love it. I was working as a waitress in a sushi restaurant and Valentine's Day was an all hands on deck shift. This guy I had just started seeing wanted to go out, but I told him that working in food service, you never get Valentine's Day off and we'd just have to celebrate the day after or the weekend after. Nope. He got so upset that he went and asked a different girl out. Came to the restaurant I worked at on V-Day and sat in my section. He then proceeded to spend the entire evening making a fool out of himself and making his date uncomfortable as he tried to make me jealous. Needless to say, we didn't go out again. Ever. Back when I served food at one of those super touristy seafood restaurants, I worked a Valentine's Day double shift. For lunch, this younger couple came in celebrating their 1-year anniversary. I offer my congratulations and proceed to do my usual spiel before taking orders. The girl is looking more and more dismayed the longer I talk. Finally I get to the end and ask if there are any allergies. She looks directly at her boyfriend and states, "Yes, I'm allergic to fish and shellfish." Then looks over at me very sad. I made sure every aspect of her meal was fine for her, but it was that look of "we've been dating a year and he still takes me to a restaurant that could kill me" that really did it for me. That reminds me when my parents got me a huge strawberry filled cake with strawberries on it for my 25th birthday. I'm deathly allergic to strawberries. Bus boy on Las Vegas Strip. An attempted proposal. Dude tries to set up sign with GF's friends for her to show up and see the ring near a fountain. Duck stole the ring. They found it 2 hours later as he dropped in the fountain. She still said yes. Free drinks were given. Untitled Goose Game. Not a total disaster, but still not good. Had a table of 2 people, probably in their mid-40s last year. Took 45 minutes for this couple to get their entrees due to our kitchen being way too slammed. When they were dropped at the table, they immediately asked for to-go boxes because they told their babysitter they'd be home by a certain time. I overheard the wife say, "Well, I guess this is why we don't celebrate Valentine's Day." The worst part was that they weren't angry, just Very sad. My personal feelings about dining out on Valentine's Day aside, I felt so horrible that this couple clearly had put in an effort to have a nice night with each other only to have it go that way. We comped their meals. BTW. I was a waitress many moons ago, and two couples spring to mind. The first were an older couple who were dressed nicely. They were polite and cordial to me, but not overly enthusiastic or friendly. They were at the table for a little over an hour and a half, and we didn't see them say one word to each other during that time. Every time I went over to their table, the atmosphere felt like I'd walked straight into an argument, but they weren't speaking, or looking at each other or anything. It very quickly became awkward as hell. The second couple was meant to be having a proposal dinner. The guy had rung to book a table, and had let us know he was going to propose during dessert. He'd given the ring to kitchen staff so we could bring it out with a cake, and he'd got some balloons and streamers too. Anyway, he walks in a couple of steps behind his partner. Everyone has big grins for them both, but he grits his teeth and shakes his head, surreptitiously dragging his finger across his throat pantomime style. Great. Oh, and lucky me, they're seated in my section. It's obvious she was bloody furious with him about something. She spends the first half of the meal seething quietly, and the second having a constant pop at him. While she was in the loo, the manager made me double check he didn't want us to bring the ring out or anything. No, was his response. I felt really bad for him. Two failed marriage proposals on the same Valentine's Day. The first one simply said no, I can't do this, and walked out. The second one stared like a deer frozen in the headlights for an excruciating 30 seconds before muttering, "Let's talk about this later." They stayed for the rest of their 6-course V-Day special dinner, eating and making painful small talk. I always wonder about couples like this. How could the guy be so off the mark as to not know if his GF will say yes? Do they not communicate? Is she pretending to like him more than she does? These are questions I need answers to. Not really a disaster, but this guy came in and said he was waiting for his date. He stayed for 5 hours waiting and she never showed. He eventually ordered 4 for himself and asked that I remove the other glass of water from the table. He said it was their first date. It was like a movie. I was bartending at an Italian restaurant, not a fancy one, but still, and it's pretty much full of Valentine's dates. A guy walks in and sits at the bar by himself, looking pretty down. He asked for a whiskey, so I poured it. Told him it was on the house because he looked like he needed it. He proceeds to tell me his story. He had come to the city to surprise his girlfriend for Valentine's, about a 5-hour bus trip between cities, and he sure surprised her. She was in her dorm room effing one of his friends from high school. He didn't know what to do, so he just walked into the first place that sold alcohol. I spilled as much whiskey as he wanted and watched the Raptors with him. Never saw him again. It's cliche, but it happened. Saw a couple have a full-on argument at a restaurant. I wasn't their server, but the table was directly in the center of the restaurant and they were certainly loud enough for everyone to hear. My manager kindly asked them to leave and the guy's response was to yell, "I've been wanting to do that for 2 years now," and stormed out. That's a really good comeback though. He nailed that exit. It wasn't disastrous for the couple as much as it was the restaurant. I used to work at a small southeastern franchise restaurant. It wasn't anything you could mistake for upscale. We had someone call in and ask if we could fry the ring he was planning to propose with in a hush puppy. Extremely weird request, but we said sure. They come in to eat with their families. She gets her order of hush puppies, doesn't choke on the ring and seems excited enough. Stayed at the table for about 2 hours total and chatted. They dined and dashed. Younger couple came in for what I can only assume was a first date. Ordered a pizza but never ate. Caught up in conversation I guess. Guy must have been feeling confident BC about 2 hours and he gets up, goes to the bathroom, and then decides to sit next to her in the booth rather than across from her where he was before. I swear to you she then got up and used the restroom about 10 minutes later, and when she came back, decided it would best if they didn't sit next to each other and sat in his original place. Please refrain from doing this. I worked at Pizza Hut and the guy asked if I could bake a ring in the pizza. I politely declined. Their waitress did however put their ring on the pizza before bringing it to the table. The girl saw the ring, got mad, yelled at him for proposing at a Pizza Hut and walked out. He asked for a box, took the pizza and went after her. Happened to my poor coworker. A guy and his date came in for Valentine's Day. They had a great time, ate a lot of food, drank a lot of wine, and got along really well with my coworker who was their server. About 2 months later they come back in and request my coworker again, who happily says yes to serving them. He goes up and greets them. The guy introduces his wife to him, and my coworker mentioned something about how much he enjoyed serving them on Valentine's Day. They go quiet, wife gets up and leaves. Guy just lowers his head. Turns out he had brought his mistress in on Valentine's Day, but my coworker didn't realize he was with a different woman this time around, so didn't think anything of it. We never saw the guy again. A 16-year-old boy proposed to a 15-year-old girl with a cheap ring in the whipped cream of her dessert. She said yes, so romance isn't quite dead yet. I walked up to a table and was about to drop off the bill. Caught the end of "it's over." Guy looked at me dead in the eye and said to split that effing check, right now. He proposed. She said no. He cried and tried to change her mind for 20 minutes while she sat there stony faced. She finally got up and walked out. He paid and left in tears. Someone showing up for a date and you both realize about 30 minutes in she ain't coming. Drinks on me, buddy. Maybe that's what I should do next time I'm single or don't have plans on the day. Go around to different places and get fresh. I saw a couple have a full-blown argument in the middle of the restaurant. The woman stood up, took her ring off, threw it at him and walked out. The man continued his meal, had dessert and then paid the bill, left a pretty big tip for the inconvenience and left. Best comment of the day. I feel so bad for my ex-husband. His future ex-wife has turned out to be quite something. She's been cheating on him the whole time. He asked her to stop, but she wouldn't. He sees her in public with some guy, so he goes up to her, says, "Hi honey," and gives her a kiss on the cheek. She pressed charges against him for assault, because an unwanted kiss is considered assault. Then she pressed charges against him when he went to pick up his things to move out, saying he was harassing her. But wait, there's more. She tried to get a judge to sign all of his shit over to her, claiming he abandoned it. Here, in North Carolina, it's guilty until you can prove your own innocence. She always does this on Friday, so nothing can be done until Monday, and he has to spend the weekend in jail. Poor guy is shaking in his boots every single Friday now. Plus, she'll text him acting like she's sorry and wants to work things out, but when he replies, she runs to the police telling them he violated the protection order. Luckily, she's made it clear through texts with him, and also between a friend of hers, that she's only doing this to get his farm. This is a horrible, long, unfair, uphill battle, but I think he's going to make it. His lawyers are women, and are so fucking mad at her for making it so much harder for women that are telling the truth. They're going to rake her over much deserved coals. Ever since I experienced pedophiles as a kid, I always felt they were the second lowest form of human being. Second only to those that falsely accuse an innocent person of doing such awful things when they didn't. I hope she pays dearly for this.